So we're hanging out in the woods in the middle of the night to take ghostly pictures of Jim. Oh, my torch went out. No, it didn't. It's just that dark. So we're hanging out in the woods in the middle of the night to do in-camera ghost photography. Most images of ghosts can be explained quite rationally, mostly by long exposures, double exposures, and light leaks. While I'm not saying all photographs of ghosts are fake, you can use the techniques I'm about to show you to get some spookily similar results. This effect works by combining the two different types of exposures into one. Start with a long time exposure. The length will depend on your surroundings. We're in a wood at night, so I'm working with a 5-minute exposure. This allows us to get a nice natural light exposure at night. This is called the time exposure. Any exposure longer than 1/60th of a second will make moving objects appear as a bit of a blur. The slower or the brighter they are in frame, the more obvious this will be, and this is what will help us create the halo around the ghost. You then add a flash exposure by flashing the subject with a flash gun or speed light fired anywhere within the 5-minute exposure. When used on its own, a flash exposure will freeze the subject, but when used within a long time exposure, the subject will still retain the blurring of the time exposure, and the flash exposure will appear slightly transparent. And every time you fire a flash gun, you will get another flash exposure. When you combine both flash and long time exposures, you will get an in-camera ghost effect. The reason this works is a camera flash goes off in roughly a 16,000th of a second. So we can account for the exposure on that with the camera's iris, and that means we can leave the camera shutter open for as long as we want. This means the subject will be blurred, but frozen at the same time, looking a bit like a ghost. Well, that's the theory. This is what happened in practice. Just going to get a focus on that. The first thing I did was place 2 LED panels into the scene, one to fill the subject from camera left, the other to produce a rim light behind the subject on camera right. This means that we were able to pick up the blurred movement more easily and create a halo around the model. At one point I tried using a torch to add to the halo. This is a type of painting with light, but it would also have been another element to balance within the image, and at the time I didn't think I needed it. Once I'd balanced the LED panels and the ambient light and the time exposure, I was able to test the flash gun and see what the flash exposure would be. I did this first without the long time exposure, so I could work on each element on its own. This gives me far more control than trying to do it all at once. As we were creating a ghost, I only wanted to use the flash once. Any multiple flashes will produce multiple versions of the model, because it's impossible for someone to stay still for any great length of time. I mean, it's cool, but it's taking a long time to recharge. I think if I'm going to get the image that I want, I'm going to have to get something a bit bigger. I set up 2 250 watt flash guns in a similar position to the LED lights, one behind her and one with a softbox on to her left as a fill light. So in the end, I opened the camera for 5 minutes. Start that there. Press the shutter. And ready. Firing the flash in the first 10 seconds. Now move around. Move around for 2 minutes. The subject danced around in the clothes for 2 minutes before walking out of the shot.
Ghost train.
And leaving me to expose just the wood for the remaining 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And this is what we got out of camera. I did a very small amount of Photoshop work on it, just removing the light from the back of frame. But in the meantime, that's how you get a really cool ghost effect in camera. You can do it with film, you can do it with digital, and if people don't know much about photography, some of them might even believe it's a real ghost. I'm going to start putting out more videos on this channel. If you'd like to know when they come out, you can subscribe, click the bell icon, and it'll tell you when the next video comes out. You can also check my work on Instagram, or you can view it on my website. Until next time, happy shooting.